everything he reaches, all achievement, he immediately wants to go incomparably better than that and go higher and higher. So he says that doesn't work. He said something has to break. He said that's why your heart doesn't feel well. So the Friedrich said, wow. That's not bad. He said, yeah, he said, we already understand that ourselves. He said, but what do we do for him? So he said to him, you have to go to somebody else. He said, I can't help you. He said, I can't help her. I can't treat Azamis, economists. I can't treat him because I'm not in that league. I take place in, what you do when you're incomparably going higher every minute, it's not my line. I mean, we see from that.
Why was the Rebbe Rashab going there?
Huh?
Why was the Rebbe Rashab going there? What was
the Rebbe Rashab doing?
Why would he go there?
Huh?
Why would he go to Freud?
What was wrong with
No,
the
he
Rebbe
didn't
Rashab?
go to Freud because he was Freud. He went to a professor.
But why?
He was looking for some way that he should be able to have manucha and, gain a bit of help.
Physical help?
Yeah, whatever. I mean, your cash is on all the went to doctors. He came right in for talk to doctors. He was looking for something that would cause him, a little bit of physical, at the same time mental balance, or, feeling decent. The whole time he was feeling ill. That in Tofresh Nun Ches, the Rebbe Rashab said goodbye to everybody. He said he doesn't believe that he's going to live out the year. That also. The Rebbe Rashab said to his family that he doesn't believe he's going to live out the year. Tofresh Nun Ches. The whole time. You guys have no idea but what it was really like. Understand? And that's what he said he can't do. It's not for him. It's not within his capacity to help him. That was the Indian that the Rebbe was in Azar Oifen, that immediately he achieved something incomparably higher was the next day, the whole time. Just imagine. You know that he said there was only twice in his life that he stopped thinking Chassidus. They said that the whole time, the Rebbe Rashab was always thinking Chassidus. He never thought anything else, never stopped. And he said there were only twice that he stopped for a short while thinking Chassidus. And I've forgotten what they were. One was connected with the, I think when the revolution occurred, and they started shooting in the streets and all things. For a minute he stopped thinking Chassidus to find out what was happening, what was going on. And the other time was, I think it was the day the Friedrich Rebbe had to appear for the Giyus. The Friedrich Rebbe appeared at the Giyus, what's called, how do you say Giyus in English? The mobilization of the army. And it was a whole big thing that there was one Russia that he had said that he was going to make sure that they took the Rabbeinu Schneersohn's son. He was a Russian Mauritian, and somehow or another they got round him, and with a lot of bribe, a lot of money, and they already had a promise that nothing was going to be done, and all he had to do was just report, and they would give him a card, whatever card was the finished card, they would give him on the spot. And the Rebbe Rashab had already been informed about that. But on the day that the Friedrich Rebbe went, I heard from Rav Landa that he'd heard from the Chassidim that were present at that time, that the Rebbe Rashab was white, the mamish was pallid white the whole day. And it was one of the black days in Lubavitch. He never said anything to anybody, and he was just completely oized, because he knew that the Rebbe was going. I had already been promised that everything was all right, and that everything was going to help, but nonetheless, that's the way the Rebbe took it. And as far as I remember, he said that was another time that he stopped for a short while thinking. I was to say the whole time he was thinking. That was just the ordinary flow. And whenever he achieved anything in his avodah, he immediately started thinking on the spot, how does he get incomparably higher? So this professor, be it Freud or not, that's another matter. This professor said he saw it. he can't handle with such a Indian, but a person who's like that, there's no way you can heal it. So, as far as he knows, there's no healing for such a person.
No holds bar.
Yeah, no hold, exactly. And that was Avram. Avram Avinu was exactly the same. I don't know about Avram Avinu's visiting doctors. That's not written as far as blessing. But also upon him, that was Avram Avinu. And therefore, our Rebbeim are all Avram Avinu all over again. And the big, his gashments of Avram Avinu is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is Avram Avinu all over. If you just think about it, in Mizbein, afilu b'inyonim mesuyomim, Allah has come overcome with klal ha'inyan, then you see that the Rebbe's Mam Shalom. Anyway, to get back to our story. So we see that the Rebbe Rashab was in this unbelievably impatient situation where the whole time he was going. He was moving the whole time, higher and higher and higher. And that, it's not easy to live that way. What happened, you might say, well, a person like that, he's cut off from the world, he's all the time going higher. He doesn't have anything to do with anybody or anything, he's busy with these unbelievable aliyahs the whole time. And therefore, the other name of the Rebbe Rashab was Dog Bear. They eat him from a bear, that he called a simple gashmistic, not very idle type of chayo called a bear, to indicate that everything's got to come down. Everything has to come down into the world. Molachol, Oretz Deya, you've got to affect even the mud of the earth. Mud of the earth. A bear is not bad. Look up in the mud. He's already a chai. He's l'mayla me'adayim. He's a pretty, grob sort of l'mayla, but he's a l'mayla me'adayim. Over the daimim is mamish daimim. Molachol, Oretz Deya. That's why the Rebbe Rashab was called Dog Bear, because it's just unbelievable. I heard from Rav Landa that you could see that the Rebbe Rashab was just not here. He was not at home most of the time. And he was just like mashallah. And yet nonetheless, he brought down the whole Indian of Chassidus and everything into the world, in a way that it went through the Indian from Seichel down into the ordinary Hanhoga of the life of a man, Kipshute, like the Rebbe says, She'ein Takta Lamata Himena. And therefore the Rebbe Rashab personally made, Va'adim, how do you call it, like committees, during the Russo-Japanese War, that nobody else in Russia got onto these ideas, and the Rebbe Rashab personally used to run these meetings as to how to get all the Jewish things that the Jewish soldiers had been dragged into the war by the Russian government, that they would be able to get everything, even down to little telescottons and all sorts of things. And then there was a terrible gazeta that the hats that they used to wear were shatners. They had in them shatners. And even that the Rebbe tried to deal with it. Maybe they could make special hats, and maybe this, and maybe they could wear another type of hat, and a whole nice. And it was all the Rebbe. It was all him. And he's every minute going higher, and while he's doing this, he's thinking Siddur. Because he said that the only time he stopped thinking Siddur was these 2 or 3 times. So that means that all the other time he was thinking Siddur. That's how do you call it, an impossible situation. So we see that that's the Indian of Sholim, and that's the Indian of Dolbed. That everything came down into the world, Kipshute, in a way that it affected and turned the physical world in the direction of Siddur. And like the famous Pisco, I've forgotten if it's from the Rebbe Rashab himself, but they used to say it in those days, as the Ika is that it has to be not a Siddur kop, or a Siddur heel. In Yiddish is a sort of Polish, Russian word, Piata, you probably know. That means the heel. And so they used to say the whole kunz is not to have a chassidische kop, but to have a chassidische heel. Even the heel, which is the most unfeeling part of the body, that's also got to learn chassidus. It's also got to feel chassidus. And the Rebbe Rashab brought that about. That's what started happening. The Rebbe Rashab, it all became the whole, the highest in Yonim, they all came down, they hit the dog, bear, they hit the bear, and even lower than that, they hit the Eilu Kipshuta. So the Hadikot, the Vedichere once said that the mile of a sukkah is that when you go into the sukkah, even the mud on the boots, if you happen to have mud on your boots, it also becomes sukkatika mud. That is not the Vedichere. It's a different sort of mud. It's been in the sukkah. The whole term of the Rebbe Rashab in Lubavitch, that's how it was to be goyim, that the mud on your shoe was a chassidische mud. It's a different type of mud. And that's the whole weekend. So I don't remember all this. Oh yeah, that's the reason why the year that the Rebbe was born is called Kisro in Aramaic, not Keser. Yeah, because Keser is Lashon Kodesh, and Keser is how do you call it? Moved on. We say the Stausel, and all beer it's got a certain Keser with the Moichin, and sometimes it's reckoned as in the Tzur Koima, the Moichin, etc. Of a Keser is how you call it highfalutin, and it remains very, very elevated and highfalutin. Kisro Mita Aleph is Aramic, and it's put down in the Sforim that the Aramic is Klippus Noiga. And that when you say Shnayim Mikro Ve'echad Targum, the reason you have to say the Targum is that you have to be Ma'ale the Aramaic into the Madrega and Kedusha Lashon Kodesh. That's why you have to put them together. Because the etiminion of Aramaic itself is Klippus Noiga. I say more, become a Mekim. Avamela Kisro is Aramaic. So Aramaic is Klippus Noiga. But that's the remez that the Keser has got to go all the way down into Klippus Noiga. And how he said it's got to be Esther Chosid, Geita Chosid in Gaz, Geita Chosid, Shlochta Chosid. It's got to be in the simple, in Yonim Chassidut. That's the Ina from Kisro. And that's what the Rebbe Rashab represented, despite the fact that he himself didn't appear to have the slightest connection with these in Yonim. And I'll tell you a story which indicates that he didn't seem to have the slightest connection with these inyonim. And maybe I've told you the story. If you already heard the story, then you can sort of give me a wink in the middle, and maybe we'll go to something else. Anyway, what happened was like this: that after the Rebbe had already left Lubavitch, Rav Landa, everywhere I heard the story from Rav Landa. Everywhere the Rebbe went, he went. He was like he was the role of the Rebbe's whole household. And he had to paskin the Shabbos. The Rebbe didn't want to be busy with paskin Shabbos. He was busy with the Chassidus. He didn't want to have to do his paskin. Even though he had unbelievable knowledge in halachos, the whole with the mikvahs, the boil takas boil, and it's all from the Rebbe Rashab. So anyway, they moved into a certain apartment. It wasn't the final apartment in Rostov, and it was already winter because the Rebbe left Lubavitch in Sukkot, Tofresh Ayin Vol, and so it already became winter. It was cold, so they need to buy wood. In those days, they used to have wood fire, so they bought wood, and they heard there was a Jewish guy that he cut wood and he sold wood, and he bought it, for you in his cart and everything. And he would deliver the wood to the house. So the Rebbe Rashab said they should go to this guy and make an order, and let's see what happens. So sure enough, he brings the wood, and he delivers it, from the truck, or not the truck, from the cart, or whatever he's got. And he comes into the house to get his money, or to make a Heshvan, to get his money. So he comes into and this is the Rebbe Hashem was sitting in a room, and there were 2 or 3 other choshev of people from the big city, as far as I understood. They were there, and Rav Landi himself was also there. He was like in a corner of the room, and the Rebbe was sitting at his table. So the guy comes in, and he sort of makes a remez, he wants to make a cheshbon, he wants to finish off the deal. So the Rebbe said, yes, fine, of course. So he says, well, Rebbe said, I bought, so many kilos, or whatever it is in Russia, lots of kilos. I bought so many, and each one costs kat. So it's that amount of times. That is that. 60, let's say. 90 or so. So the Rebbe sort of bent his head for me and said, I'm sorry, would you mind saying that again? I didn't quite catch. Would you repeat? So the guy said, of course. So he repeated, in a nice way, what he'd said. So the Rebbe looked a bit sort of, the Rebbe's forehead sort of went a bit serious. And he said, look, I really apologize, but could you repeat that? Would you just say it a bit slowly? So the guy didn't realize, so he said, okay. He said, look, Rebbe, I bought Caf Mar, and each one costs this. And so it's due to me, if you don't mind, Caf Mar. So the Rebbe says to him, listen, don't be angry, but just say that over again. Just say it slowly. So the people in the room, in fact, they can't feel what's going on. So anyway, the guy says, so look here, he said this, and then 5 times this, and then 15 times 4, so 60. So the Rebbe turned to Rav Landi, and he said to him, he looks to me to be a reliable person. He has 8 Meroisa Elecha. In Yiddish, it has 8 Meroisa Elecha. He said, give him the skill. He said, give him the money. His sister Rav Landi, give him the money. So, the people at the table, the brain that's telling them the iron base, it's giving out all these unbelievable memories, and he can't just, 15 times 4, he doesn't seem to figure it, And in the end, he relied on the fact that he looked a decent sort of a guy, should give him the go. So Rav Landi went away from India, he bought the money, he was very in charge of the household. He bought the money and he gave the guy, thanked him. He looked at the Rebbe with puzzled him, but he thanked him and he walked, and he was okay. But in the meantime, there's some of the big city that was sitting at the table. They had their mouths which are open, and they're hearing these unbelievable drushim, that no brain can figure, where's it coming from. And he couldn't even can't make 4 times 15, 60. They didn't figure it. So all of a sudden the Rebbe noticed that, a couple of mouths were open, he seemed to sort of pick up that somebody was a bit funny, and he sort of looked at people, and then all of a sudden he said, listen, he said, what can I do? He said, I'm very sorry. He said, but I'm just not in that. I'm just completely not in. He said, in Yiddish, the expression is, ich bin ganz nicht dort. I'm not there. So from that we see that the Rebbe lived the whole time on another plane of existence. And it's not that he didn't know what 4 times 15 was, or 20 times 6, or whatever it was. It's not that he didn't know that, it's just that he wasn't there. So his mind couldn't switch and couldn't take it. And so I heard Amshel, that's already known, that's already written somewhere, I think, to myself. There's a lot of books go out nowadays, there's a lot of things. But I heard a Yemship on the Maisa. Rav Landi told me that the next day there was like a continuation at the same time. What happened was that since they hadn't yet settled in Rostov, they were looking for a suitable tira, the Rebbeson and the Rebbe Shah. So that next day they had to go and meet an agent to talk about another deal which they thought was maybe suitable, and they had to discuss the price and everything with him. And so it had been agreed that at, let's say, at 10:30 or something in the morning, they were leaving and they were going to this Caf. So it so happens that the Rebbe was in his room. Once again, Rav Landa was sort of in the corner. You know, he used to keep out of it, but he was there if he was needed. So the next thing is that the Rebbe comes in, she puts her head into the room, and she says to the Rebbe, "Are you ready?" And so all of a sudden he says to her, "For what? What am I supposed to be ready?" So she said, "But you don't realize that we're going to leave in a few minutes. We're going to talk about the Dira." So the Rebbe said, "Look, I'm terribly sorry. I can't come." So the Rebbe said, she just blew up, you know. She said, "What do you mean you can't come, you know? What are we going to do, you know? Where are we going to live? What's going to be?" So the Rebbe Rashab said, "Look, you know, don't take it too hard, but I just can't come. I'm not able to come." So she started to shed a few tears, and she got really upset. And it's brought down in Sforim that you shouldn't bring her. You should shed tears. You know. So Rav Landa was very upset, but the Rebbe seemed to take it calmly. And so she left the room in very distress. So it was quiet in the room. All of a sudden, Rav Landa felt he had to be a chutzpan, you know, he had to say something to save the room. He said to the Rebbe Rashab, "She means good, you know. She might do good." And that was a chutzpah because nobody was asking him his opinion. And he said to the Rebbe, "You know, she means well. She means really good." So all of a sudden the Rebbe said, "Ich weiß." He said, "I don't realize she means good." You know, he said, "I know she means good. But well, what can I do?" He said, "I'm just not in that at all. I'm not masugal. I can't go and talk about such things right now." So once when he heard that, there's nothing to be done. And from that we see that the Rebbe was like, he wasn't in anything. And yet at the same time, if a Jewish soldier sitting in a tent in the Japanese war, one of the terrible people the Japanese took, right? The Japanese war, and he needed something to put on a hat that didn't have shatnez. The Rebbe gave him his time, and he was in it, and he knew exactly what was happening. And he wrote all the prescriptions and all the medicine. Everything went through him. And does his dog bear? Doesn't the Shalom dog have to come down? Al-Bazoi, just for himself and for the normal flow of the Holy Gera, he didn't know anything. Why? Because he was in the moment that he was about to give up. But he was in it. Not like we learn a moment in Halavai, you know, he's also have a question. He was in it. And so therefore he's not there. But I mean, that's an unbelievable union. Well, I don't know how I got onto all this, but anyway, I did. And that's what we got to realize. We got to realize that Caf Mar Heshvan represents a tremendous message to us all. And it's not that the other Rebbeim didn't have it that way. They're all that way. And like we said, the Rebbe is the emissary of Avinu of our generation, and everything is the Rebbe. Caf Mar Heshvan teaches us that tremendous Indian that you got to have a Chassidus. You know, you can't play with Chassidus. Chassidus has got to be, there's an expression in Yiddish, durch und durch. Durch and durch means it's got to be in the head and go all the way down to the feet, through and through. It's got to be durch and durch, and you got to be not at home. You know, every now and then, don't do it on your wife's cheshbon. I don't recommend that. I remember once I came to Melbourne. I ever tell you the story? I think I told you guys the story. I once came to Melbourne, and we had a fabring. There was a fabring there. And in the middle, something came up about Shalom Bayis or something. I don't know how or exactly what it was, how it came up. So all of a sudden I wanted to be a little bit, you know, how do you call it, hail fellow, well met. And I wanted, you know, for Ray, it should be interesting. I told him the story, since they mentioned, you Shalom Bayis, I told him the story. And what was the story? The Alter Rebbe had a famous chassid called Moshe Yasher, was his name, Moshe Yasher. That's the case. Yasher is like a name of something, Moshe Yasher. Exactly how we'll get to it, I don't know, but that's what they call it. So he was, also he was really into the tzedakah. He was really into it. So after the passing of the Alter Rebbe, he was still well ordained, and the Alter Rebbe passed away. And so he decided he's going to go out to the Yoya home. He's going to visit the Alter Rebbe and talk things over with the Alter Rebbe and the. So he gets out to the Yoel and he's got a couple of boys with him, young fellas, but they're like his assistants, he was big time. So he gets out there and all of a sudden he starts writing the pan, he wants to write the pan. So he gets to his wife and he starts writing her name, and then all of a sudden he turns to this, one of the bochim and he says, Yankee, he says, by the way, do you remember what my wife's name is? Do you remember my wife's name? So he's stunned, he's thunderstruck. So he thinks for a minute and he says, "Du sind mir, sie heißt Esther, So he said, "Oh, yeah, right." He said, "That's it. Great square." Writes in the name. So that was, I just told that as a friendly sort of a thing to make the very bit happier, a bit interesting, and just to show what's in him once upon a time.
Nowadays, our wives make us forget our name.
I did very good. So that's by the way a very intelligent remark. But anyway, I thought it was fine. I thought everything was fine.
Good night.
So the next morning, not in the morning, about midday, I get a phone call. And there's a lady on the phone, and she says, "I'm Mrs. Planey, I'm the wife of Planey." So she said, "He came home last night, and he told me a story that you told the upbringing." And she said, "How dare you tell such stories?" She said, "We have enough problems as it is." And he said, "We put up with enough of these guys. And all of a sudden you come along and you're going to be leaving shortly. You're just here today and gone tomorrow, And you tell a story. I said, "Where do you get the achrayas to do that?" I was really sorry. I didn't, so I apologized. But I just said, my whole kavanah was just to show, how once upon a time in the city, we're on a very good madrega, but chas v'sholom, I didn't mean any horrors. I was just, telling Marshall, Yom Shapam Hayu, and he called the remembrance of things past. I didn't really mean, anything to poil. So she says, "Well, if you didn't mean anything to poil, then maybe you shouldn't have said it altogether." That's what she said to me. So I said, "Yes, lady, you're right. I'm really very sorry. I apologize. And if necessary, I withdraw the whole thing. I never told such a story. Let's forget it." But I didn't quite know how to handle it. Next thing is, she hangs up in that. Fortunately, otherwise I wouldn't have known what to say further. So also upon him, we see that there's such a Indian. The head he could, the Rebbe Rashab, he lived like that the whole time. He was like that the whole time. But he managed to know what his wife's name was, at least, and he managed to know what was going on. And he knew what was going on. The title is Ha'atzmi Lamata Mata. And he made the world a Siddish piece of matter. That's a message. That's Caf Mar Heshvan. Be in it and live in it, or bring it down and make life a better life because of what you learn. Or not in a way that you forget your wife's husband. And be what you're supposed to be and do everything you're supposed to do, but do it in a way that it's all sunken with, that he call it verdunken. Dat is de expressie in Jiddisch. אבל הוא אומר לחיים, השם שלו, על פי המס, not just a verbringen of Caf Mar Heshvan, but it should be a hems, the whole continuous, that he called it, all the nimshech. Chaim.
Chaim.